Welcome back, SethBling here, and this is another video in my series where I attempt to create 360 custom Mario-themed Magic the Gathering cards. I'm creating a draft cube, and that requires 360 cards. It's 45 cards for each of 8 players. And so far I have designed, as of this video, I'm up to 120 cards plus 5 basic lands. So I'm 1/3 of the way done. Which is pretty cool. I'm actually going to split up the cards that I haven't talked about into 2 videos, so this video and the next video. So this video will be these 17 cards, and then the next video will be these 17 cards. So stay tuned probably tomorrow, if you're watching this when it comes out, for the next video. But yeah, let me just dig into it. I'll start talking about some new cards I've designed, both off stream and on stream. Now, the first couple cards here are actually were inspired by the Mario the Gathering subreddit. So I did create a subreddit. You can see it linked in the video description if you want to link to that, where there's like discussion and ideas around this project. So I'm definitely getting a lot of inspiration from viewers and people who are interested in the project. So some of these are inspired. Some of them are actually just directly taken from the subreddit. And I've included credit in the text box here below cards where I did take the idea from the subreddit. So the first one, this is actually just the card name, and like the kind of concept was inspired by the subreddit. All of the other stuff I came up with, but so here's Poorly Located Axe. This is the axe that stands behind Bowser in the original Super Mario Brothers game. You can, shoot Bowser with fireballs, or you can just jump past Bowser and hit that axe and it'll destroy the bridge. And so it's a very poorly located axe. It's just a single black mana. Poorly located axe enters the battlefield under the control of an opponent of your choice. So you're gifting this poorly located axe to your opponents for future shenanigans. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to you, sacrifice poorly located axe. If you do, sacrifice a creature without flying. So, again, since I've given this card to my opponent, this text really applies to my opponent. You refers to the person who controls poorly located axe. So basically, if a creature is able to get past, Bowser and damage the player, it's like they've triggered the axe. And if they do, you have to sacrifice poorly located axe. And then the reason this says if you do, referring to if you do sacrifice poorly located axe, is that this ability uses the stack. So whenever a creature deals damage to you, this ability goes on the stack. If you're able to remove poorly located axe before it resolves, then this second half won't trigger because you won't be able to sacrifice the card. But if you do, you sacrifice a creature without flying. So that's like the bridge breaks, the creature falls into lava and dies. And you get to choose which creature that happens to. So this is something called like an edict effect in the world of Magic. Usually they cost 2 mana. This is cheaper both because it's a little bit harder to trigger. You have to actually deal damage to the player with the creature you control. And also because it's a little bit awkward. You can play this early if you want, before your opponent even has any creatures. But it's a little bit risky because if you do, you'll and you want to attack before your opponent has any creatures. If you deal damage to them and they don't have any creatures, they'll sacrifice poorly located axe, but they won't have to actually sacrifice a creature. So you'll basically have just wasted a whole card. So it's an interesting kind of card, I think. I'm happy with it. Next up is this card that I took directly from the subreddit. I think I increased the cost by 1 maybe, but this is a kind of a cool card. It sort of interacts with all 3 of the strategies that are available to green. So like I said in previous videos, the set is broken up into shards, sets of 3 colors. So there's 3 shards that have green in them. There's the villains and minions shard. There's the heroes and power-up shard, and there's the Mario Maker shard. And different aspects of this card enable different aspects of those different shards. So the villains and minions shard is all about having a bunch of cheap minion creatures. So this lets you spend a mana to create a 1/1 black minion creature, and then you can still cast Comex Boon later. This part, just having enchantments attached to creatures you control, is a big part of the super mechanic that's part of the heroes and power-up shard. And so this is a pretty straightforward effect. Makes a creature giant and gives it trample. And then the Mario Maker shard cares about having enchantments and artifacts and card types on the battlefield. So the flavor of this, of course, is that Comic is this wizard guy, and he, in various games, will cast spells that makes bosses into giant versions of those bosses. And so it's nice flavor, and it interacts with all 3 shards, and so I really like this card as a very flexible card that you can draft in a bunch of different strategies. So thank you to Nalcium for that one. The previous one was by Everything is Normal, or the idea was the poorly located axe concept. 1UP is something I've been trying to design for a little while now, but Archerman1234 on the subreddit had a good insight. So I've been thinking of 1UP as something that applied to the player. So maybe like gain 20 life, or like if you would lose the game, instead something else happens. But Archerman1234 pointed out that it could apply to a creature, and so that inspired me to make this really, really simple and elegant design. Enchanted Creature has super. So if you haven't seen this effect before, it means that you can sacrifice an aura or equipment that's attached to that creature, and it gains hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. So this sort of like gives the creature an extra life. Like you attach this to the creature, if it would die in combat, you can sacrifice 1UP and it lives. This has nice interaction, again, with the rest of the set. Things like Comic Spoon. You can attach both of them to the same creature, and then if you need to, you can sacrifice Comic Spoon and then 1UP again. So if you have like a really important creature, you can make it big temporarily, and then even if your opponent tries to do something to it, you can save it a couple times. So yeah, this has this like nice interaction with the set. It's like not a super powerful if it has super. It's not that powerful of an effect on its own. It still could be useful in a lot of circumstances, though. But it's just very elegant, and if you build around it, it can definitely be very powerful. Another design from the subreddit, Goomba Shoe. So this is like a shoe that the Goombas use, that if you kill the Goomba, you can jump in the shoe for yourself. And it lets you jump around and jump really high and stuff. So basically, the card gives you +2/+2 in reach, or gives a creature +2/+2 in reach. But if the equipped creature dies, an opponent gains control of Goomba's shoe. So it's like if you kill the Goomba that's occupying the shoe, you get to take the shoe. And this has really nice interaction with super, in that you can equip this to a creature you control with super, and if your opponent would like kill that creature, you can just sacrifice Goomba's shoe, save the creature. Even if you can't save the creature, your opponent's still not going to get Goomba's shoe. So this is really nice for that. And again, just having an artifact for your Mario Maker strategy that like promotes having multiple, or gets benefit from having many card types on the battlefield, is nice. And it's pretty cheap effect, but it's got that downside where your opponent could gain control of it. All right, Mad Piano. This was a cool design. This was interesting because we were like on stream, we were working on designing this card, and we came up with the idea to combine the reminder text between 2 abilities, and it ended up pretty elegant. So Mad Piano is this like normal looking piano, but if you get close, it'll start attacking you. So this is a good use of the spook mechanic. Spook means, well, okay, so you probably are familiar with Morph. Morph means you can play the card face down for 3 mana as a 2/2, and then you can spend that, like pay that Morph cost to turn it face up. And so in this case, it'll become a 5/3. And the spook mechanic is a lot like that Morph mechanic. You can pay 3 to play it face down as a 2/2. But if the creature dies while face down, then you can still cast it from exile. Basically, it exiles the card and you can still cast it later. So it's like you get like a second cast out of the card. You can't use this spook cost anytime you want. The creature has to die in order to be able to play the card for its spook cost. So it kind of is like 2 creatures if you want to play it that way, but Mad Piano can also just surprise you and animate itself by playing that Morph cost. So it's got good flavor, uses both Spook and Morph on the same card. I don't know, I'm probably not going to print Morph on any cards that don't also have Spook, but I just thought this was like a nice, there's a lot of flavor in like combining the 2 mechanics on this card. Next up is Boomerang. It's another spooky card. So Boomerang is a 3/1 for 2, which is like pretty aggressively costed, but it's got a drawback. Whenever it attacks, it doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. So Boomerangs are these kind of like rings of boos. They usually have a gap in them so that Mario can like go into the middle of them, and then when the ring rotates, he can go out the other side or whatever. And so this is supposed to represent the like cyclical nature of Boomerangs and how they have a like sort of a weakness. like a period where you can get past them. And then, yeah, spook. Spook is supposed to represent just like ghosts and things dying and becoming ghosts and whatever. So there's like two options. You can either play it as a 3/1 that, you know, has this drawback, or as a 2/2 that doesn't have the drawback, and you can still cast it as a 3/1 later. So it's got a lot of flexibility. Next up is Brick and Mortar. This was another idea by Everything is Normal on the subreddit. I liked this because it has a couple of puns, and I like... I feel like Wizards of the Coast, often when they print split cards like this, they try and make... So like brick and mortar refers to like physical bricks and physical mortar of like a building. But in this case, I'm using brick as the verb, which means like to turn into a paperweight. And then mortar, which is like it's like to launch a projectile, right? And so brick destroys an artifact or enchantment. Its controller creates a treasure token. So it's like you're breaking a block and getting a coin out of it. And mortar is launching a bullet bill. Bullet bills are pretty easy to dodge, but if the creature's attacking or blocking, maybe it like is too occupied to try and dodge this mortar. So this bullet bill. So that's the flavor of those things. I like this card. Pretty flexible. It's in 2 colors. You could probably play either half as sideboard cards. Double Dash, another split card here. So Double Dash is a Mario the Kart game. It's called Mario Kart Double Dash. So I wanted this to be very vehicle themed. So Double creates a token that's a copy of target vehicle, except it's a creature in addition to its other types. So it's like if you have a vehicle, it creates a copy that's always crewed. C-R-E-W-E-D, crewed. Yeah, which is kind of interesting. Vehicles are usually a little bit pretty undercosted for their creature value because you also have to crew them. And so this lets you, for the price of a normal clone, you can sort of get full value out of an undercosted copy of a card. So that's kind of cool. And then Dash, I might change this later. Dash can kind of mean to like dash your hopes or whatever. It can mean to like crash into something. And so that's the meaning of dash that I'm using here. So target creature gets -2/-2 until the turn. I wanted to keep this one simple just because it reduces the complexity of the card overall. This is pretty easy to evaluate. But I might turn it into something... I saw an idea about reusing the dash mechanic from... What set was that? I don't remember what set, but it let you put a card from your hand on the battlefield and attack with it, and then you got it, like put it back in your hand at the end of the turn. So I might do something like that. I liked that idea, but I'm still sort of considering it. Here we got a cycle of cards. So these are the 5 shards. There's the Heroes Shard, the Mario Kart Shard, the Villains Shard, the Ghost House Shard, and the Mario Maker Shard. And basically this was all inspired by this really great art that I found on DeviantArt. But these are the 4 playable characters from Mario 2, and in that game there's a player select screen at the beginning of every level where you can pick which player you want to play. And I thought this like was just fantastic art, wanted to include it, and I think it made a lot of sense as what the card text says, which is search your library for a card with super, reveal it, and put it into your hand, shuffle your library. So this effect is kind of overcost, or like spending 3 colors for this effect is a lot. 3 mana and 3 colors. There's like better cards that search for creatures in Magic history, but this is a limited environment, and this is a pretty powerful effect in a limited environment because a lot of the best bombs in this set like have super. So I think it's just still worth playing if you're invested in that super strategy, and if you're not, then this is absolutely not worth playing. But I think it's a good enabler for that. So this cycle of cards, you know, basically gets you something that's like a critical component of the different strategies. So cart select gets you a vehicle, you know, Mario Kart. Boss select gets you a card with spawn. So those are mostly supposed to either be bosses that like spawn, you know, minions in front of them to represent their like minions that are guarding them, or it gets you sort of like plots. Things like kidnap is like a plot by a villain. So anyway, that's what boss select does. Door select is supposed to be like a door from a ghost house, and ghost houses always have a bunch of doors, and they're always like maze-like, and so which behind each door could be a different ghost. And so this gets you a card with Spook. Cards with Spook aren't always creatures; they aren't always ghosts. Sometimes there's I'm gonna have to look for it for. Oh, here's like Counter Spook, which is a counter spell that also has Spook. So, it's just like supposed to represent kind of a random ghost. But the idea here is that you can put this into your hand, and then you can play a Spook card face down, and your opponent won't know whether it's the card you got or it's like a card you already had in your hand that has Spook. And so you can play some mind games with your opponents, and like maybe you got a really powerful card into your hand with Spook, and you play it face down, and they're like avoiding killing this card because they think it's this powerful card, and they don't want to allow you to cast it for its Spook cost. But really, it's still in your hand. You can cast it later, that sort of thing. So you can play some mind games with that. And then Level Select is the most complicated one. So like I said, the Mario Maker shard cares about having lots of permanent types. So search your library for a permanent card that doesn't share a card type with any permanents you control. Reveal it and put it into your hand. Shuffle your library. So if you play this as your first, like before you've played any permanents, this is the most flexible by far. This lets you get any artifact, enchantment, creature, or planeswalker if you haven't already played a card of that type. But if you draw this late game and you've already developed your board, this might actually not let you get anything from your deck. So this has the most variance in terms of power level. It's like really good sometimes and really bad other times. So I think it's an interesting card. It might be too powerful, I'm not sure, but I'll have to play test it to see. Here's Slipstream. This is a pretty simple card. So Pursuit, if an opponent controls more creatures than you, draw a card. So this is sort of like one of the catch-up mechanics of Mario is if there's a creature or there's a cart right in front of you, you can get Slipstream and you gain extra speed for a little bit. And so it uses that pursuit mechanic. In previous videos, I said that Pursuit was going to be if an opponent has more of something than you. I've narrowed it down to it's always going to be if an opponent controls more creatures than you. So Pursuit will always be followed by this text. And I think that makes a lot of sense in a shard that has a lot of vehicles because you can develop your board by playing a lot of vehicles, and it doesn't add creatures, but it still develops your board state. And so this just like makes a lot of sense as the condition for Pursuit, I think. And then the effect is up to one target vehicle becomes a creature in addition to its other types until end of turn. So this lets you crew a vehicle for a single blue mana rather than tapping some creatures. I want to have a few of these effects so that you can have, well, first of all, it enables Pursuit pretty well. You could have 0 creatures on the battlefield and still crew your vehicle, which is cool. And I think it just like increases the value of vehicles a lot. So this could be a 1 mana cycling card that also lets you like get a sweet attack in with your vehicle or a surprise block when your opponent doesn't think it's possible for you to block. So this has some really cool value. Ghostride is a vehicle in the Mario Kart shard. It's a 2/2 with lifelink for 2. When it enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 black spirit creature token, and it's got crew 1. So it comes with the ghost that you need to drive the car. And it's just like so it's basically like a 2/2 lifelink for 2. I saw some like questions like, well, isn't this 3 power and toughness? But no, it's really not, because this is not a creature unless you crew it. So either you have the 1/1 or you tap it to make a 2/2. So it's really the value of a 2/2 for 2 with lifelink. Yeah, here's Moo Moo. I like this card. This is from Moo Moo Meadows, one of the courses in Mario Karts. There's these cows that like don't care if a cart runs into them. The cart will spin out, but the Moo Moo is totally fine. And it just looks so happy. Anyway, protection from vehicles, really straightforward. I love this design. This was another card from the subreddit by Dragonlord Atarka. I think I just ripped it directly from the subreddit, and I love it. It's a great card. And then here's the last card for today's video, but again, I'll have a video out tomorrow with the next 17 cards. This is Luigi. So this is another card with Super. He's a 3/3 with Reach. Whenever you attack or block with Luigi and exactly one other creature, you may pay green and a white. If you do, draw a card. So the idea here is he teams up with his brother Mario. If you attack with both of them, they're attacking as a team, and you get this cool little card engine benefit. Or you could block with both. It's got Reach to enable blocking shenanigans to try and help you do that. This is a lot of investment though to, like if you leave up a green and a white, planning on blocking with 2 creatures, your opponent can also just like decide not to attack and not to allow you to draw cards. So it's a bit of an investment to like leave up those mana in order to draw a card. So and then it's just got super, so it enables all kinds of cool, you know, enchantment and equipment shenanigans. And it's just like a 3/3 for 3, which is okay. But yeah, I like this card design. It really feels like he's a support character for Mario, but it doesn't explicitly reference Mario, so he can support anybody. And yeah, I like it. I'm happy with this one. So once again, check back tomorrow for another video. I'm going to be starting off with Princess Peach in that video. Yeah, and if you want to help design these cards, reddit.com/r/Mario the Gathering. There's a link in the description. Also, check me out on Twitch. I'm doing a lot of this design live, and I'm actually going to start doing playtesting very soon. Actually, on the stream that I'm currently recording the video on, I'm going to be doing some playtesting against viewers. So it's a very interactive process. This is really a community project where I'm just sort of the leader of it, making the final design decisions and stuff like that. But yeah, so check me out on Twitch or follow me on Twitter if you want to see when I'm going live. But that's about it. Thanks for watching.